Something happened to Phil Mickelson this spring that nobody saw coming. Not a tournament withdrawal, not a ranking drop, not another LIV golf headline. Something that, once you hear the full story, makes every question about his future, Augusta, the tour, his legacy, land completely differently than you thought when you clicked this video. The golf world found out in pieces. First came the absence, then came the silence, then came a report so specific, so detailed, and so damaging that even people who had already written Phil off were genuinely shocked. And here is what makes this different from every other Phil Mickelson controversy you have followed over the last 3 years. This one did not start with Saudi money, tour politics, or a leaked book. This one started somewhere much closer to home, somewhere Phil trusted completely, somewhere he had spent more hours than almost any other place in his professional life. And what happened there, what was reported, what was investigated, and what was confirmed is exactly what we are going to walk through today, step by step. Because the full picture is not what the headlines gave you, and the Augusta angle that brought you here is connected to something most coverage completely buried. Personally, I believe when you hear everything, the club, the incident, the investigation, the silence, you will understand why Augusta's next move may define how golf handles this kind of situation forever. Drop a yes in the comments if you think Augusta cuts ties completely, or a no if you think the green jacket still protects him. The comments are already split. Subscribe if you want the full story, not just the clip, because that is exactly what this is. Stay with this. It gets heavier from here. Before any of this makes complete sense, you need to understand something about Phil Mickelson that most recent coverage completely skipped over. For the last several years, through the LIV controversy, through the Saudi comments, through the PGA Tour fallout, there was still one place where none of that noise existed. One place where Phil was simply Phil. Not a villain, not a defector, not a headline, just a golfer who showed up, worked hard, and belonged. A private club, extremely exclusive. The kind of membership list that reads like a gathering of the best players this sport has ever produced. Phil had been part of that world for years, not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as one of its most prominent members. He trained there. He prepared there. He used that environment to sharpen the version of himself that shocked the entire golf world at 50 years old by winning a major championship. That place was his foundation, his routine, his reset button when everything else in his professional life was burning. And here is what that means for everything that follows. When a man loses something he treated as sacred ground, the fallout does not stay contained to that one place. It spreads. It touches everything connected to it. Every door that was already slightly open starts closing. Every institution that was quietly watching starts making quiet decisions. Phil had already missed the 2026 Masters. He had already gone almost completely silent in professional golf. He had played one LIV event all year and barely registered on the leaderboard. The people closest to the game were already asking questions about where this was heading. Then the report dropped. Suddenly, every question that had been building quietly for months had a much darker context sitting underneath it. What that report contained, and the chain reaction it triggered, is something no headline prepared anyone for. Golf Digest published it in June 2026. Multiple sources, multiple confirmations. The kind of investigative reporting that does not go to print until every detail has been checked twice. And what those sources described painted a picture of a single afternoon, one interaction, one decision, one accusation, that would permanently alter the way Phil Mickelson's name is spoken in golf circles. According to those sources, a female employee at the club reported an incident involving Mickelson before a round of golf earlier that spring. The allegation was serious enough that club officials did not wait for him to finish his round. They did not schedule a meeting for the following day. They located him on the course, mid-game, and confronted him directly with what had been reported. He left before completing his round. The club moved quickly after that. An independent investigation was launched and completed. The outcome was decisive and final. Their official statement confirmed it plainly. Following a staff member's report of member misconduct, the club provided immediate support to the staff member, conducted a thorough independent investigation, and took decisive action. The statement ended with 7 words that closed the door completely. This individual is no longer a member. No ambiguity. No softening. 7 words. Phil's legal team pushed back immediately. His attorney, one of the most prominent defamation lawyers in the country, claimed the allegations were squarely contradicted by objective video evidence. It was an aggressive response, the kind that signals a fight is coming. Except Golf Digest had already asked about that video, and the club confirmed something that made the lawyer's claim collapse quietly. There were no cameras in the area where the incident took place. No footage existed. The video evidence Phil's team referenced simply was not there. The San Diego County Sheriff's Office investigated the allegations separately. Their conclusion found no evidence that a criminal assault occurred, while leaving the door open, stating they would absolutely investigate further if additional evidence or information emerged. Phil's spokesperson offered one line in response to everything. "Any misunderstanding has been cleared up." That was it. One sentence. For an allegation of this magnitude, from a man who had spent 3 decades building one of the most public personalities in professional sports, one sentence. The silence that followed that statement is what started making Augusta nervous. Because Augusta National had already been watching. They had already seen Phil miss the 2026 Masters in April, weeks before the Golf Digest report even published. His team cited a family health matter. Augusta's chairman Fred Ridley responded warmly at the time, expressing support and noting how much Phil would be missed. It read like a temporary absence, a personal difficulty, the kind of thing that resolves itself. What nobody knew in April was that the club incident had already occurred. The investigation had already happened. The membership had already ended. Phil's team was managing a timeline carefully, and Augusta, like everyone else, was working with incomplete information. By the time Golf Digest published in June, the picture had changed completely. Augusta National is the most image-conscious institution in professional golf. That is not an opinion. It is a documented fact written into every decision the club has made for decades. They took until 1990 to admit their first black member. They took until 2012 to admit women. Every move Augusta makes is measured, deliberate, and designed to protect a brand that exists above the noise of professional sport. Past Masters champions receive a lifetime invitation to compete. That tradition is one of the most sacred in golf. But Augusta has always reserved the right to quietly withdraw access without announcement, without press conference, and without explanation. They do not ban people publicly. They simply stop extending the invitation, and the silence itself becomes the answer. Phil Mickelson has 3 green jackets. He made his Masters debut in 1991. Between 1993 and 2025, he missed Augusta only twice. That tournament was not just a major on his schedule. It was the defining stage of his career. The place where Lefty became a legend. The place where entire generations of golf fans built their connection to him. What Augusta does next with that history and that invitation may already be decided. You just have not heard it yet. There is one more layer to this that almost every outlet missed entirely. While Phil was sitting at home during the 2026 Masters, before the Golf Digest report, while the family health matter was the official story, he was active on social media, specifically on X, and what he chose to post during Masters Week was not a message of support for the players. It was not a reflection on his absence. It was criticism. Direct, public criticism of Augusta National's course setup, claiming the changes made to holes 13 and 15 had eliminated eagle opportunities and drained the drama from the tournament. Golf fans responded fast. Multiple viewers pulled the broadcast footage, counted the eagle putts on 13, and posted the evidence publicly. Phil's claim was wrong. Demonstrably, verifiably wrong. And the word several prominent fans used in response was not harsh or unkind. It was simply accurate. They called it a lie. Think about what that moment represents. A man whose Masters future is already uncertain, sitting out Augusta for the first time in decades, choosing Masters Week to publicly criticize the club's decisions, and getting the facts wrong in the process. That is not the behavior of someone managing a careful return. That is the behavior of someone whose relationship with Augusta had already shifted in ways the public had not yet been told. Augusta did not respond. They never do. But inside that silence was every answer anyone paying attention needed. The real question now is not whether Augusta is distancing itself from Phil, it is whether Phil has any stage left at all. That question becomes darker when you look at the full landscape of where professional golf stands for him right now. LIV Golf, the league Phil helped legitimize at enormous personal cost, is facing a financial crisis of its own. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, the backing that made LIV possible, has signaled it will not continue supporting the tour financially beyond the 2026 season. The league that Phil burned every bridge to join may not exist in its current form by this time next year. The PGA Tour door is not just closed, it has been described by people inside the sport in terms that leave no room for interpretation. Former ESPN broadcaster Trey Wingo stated directly that Phil Mickelson would never be seen in any official capacity with the PGA Tour again. His exact framing was precise and final. That bridge, he said, had been burned, detonated, destroyed, nuked, and lasered to death. The PGA Tour's returning member program does not cover Phil because his major victories fall outside the 3-year eligibility window. His 5-year U.S. Open exemption from winning the 2021 PGA Championship has expired. The USGA did not extend a special invitation. Phil did not attempt to qualify. The PGA Championship spot he briefly appeared to hold was withdrawn. Golf writer Alan Shipnuck, who knows Phil's situation more intimately than almost any other journalist alive, put it plainly: if LIV disappears, Phil is a man without a country. Nowhere to play, no tour to call home. The Open Championship in July remains the one thread still visible. As a past champion, his name appeared on the entry list. Whether that entry becomes an appearance is a question that now carries the weight of everything else attached to his name. In 2026, Phil Mickelson has played one professional event. A LIV tournament in South Africa, where he finished outside the top 40. The most charismatic, most fan-engaged, most talked-about golfer of his generation has effectively disappeared from the sport he defined for 30 years. And here, right here, is the answer to what you clicked for. The Farms Golf Club, Rancho Santa Fe, California. That is the club. That is where it happened. A female employee reported that Phil made non-consensual and inappropriate physical contact with her before a round of golf in the spring of 2026. She reported it immediately. Club officials moved immediately. They found him mid-round, confronted him on the course, and he left the premises before finishing his game. The club investigated independently, confirmed the report, and terminated his membership. His lawyer claimed video evidence cleared him. The club confirmed no cameras existed in that area. The sheriff investigated and found no criminal assault. Phil's team called it a misunderstanding. Augusta National has not formally banned Phil Mickelson. No announcement has been made. No statement has been released. But Augusta does not work that way, and every person who understands how Augusta operates knows that the absence of an invitation is its own answer. A man with 3 green jackets and 30 years of Masters history missed the 2026 tournament. His relationship with the club's leadership is publicly fractured. A serious misconduct allegation now sits permanently attached to his name. Whether that invitation comes next April or not, only Augusta knows. But the trajectory is not pointing toward Magnolia Lane. This is Phil Mickelson's reality in 2026. No home club, no clear tour, no Augusta confirmation, no U.S. Open, one event played all year, a legal dispute attached to his name, and a silence from his camp that speaks far louder than any statement could. The man who made the impossible shot feel routine. The man who signed autographs until the last fan walked away. The man who won a major at 50 and made every golfer over 40 believe it was still possible. That man is now standing at the edge of every door slamming shut at the same moment. Whether this is a temporary collapse or a permanent ending, nobody outside Phil's inner circle can say with certainty. What can be said is this: the fall from where Phil Mickelson stood to where Phil Mickelson stands now is one of the most dramatic in the history of professional golf. And it did not happen because of a rivalry or an injury or the natural passage of time. It happened on a spring afternoon at a private club in California. In the time it takes to play 9 holes. Was this the ending Phil wrote for himself, or did the sport abandon him before he had the chance to finish? Drop your answer below. And if this kind of depth is what you want every time, subscribe, because we are just getting started.